Do you love this podcast? Do you love the information that we give you with a little sense of humor, some nuggets, some fun? Guess what? It happens every day, 24 hours a day inside Endurance Nation. Endurance Nation has been helping athletes just like you achieve their age group goals, whether it's finishing their first marathon or Boston qualifying, finishing their first triathlon or doing an Ironman at the World Championships, or doing ultra runs, gravel races, etc. Many cases during the summer months, we have athletes racing all over the country, in fact, the globe, at events of all different varying shapes and sizes. We can do that because the framework for how we train, how we build athletes, educate them, and support them with training plans and digital access to coaching and their peers is unparalleled. No one else does it like Endurance Nation does it. When you become a member of the team, you get access to not only the great coaching support, our training plans, and our resources, but to peers, people just like you who love the adventure, love challenging themselves, and are on this growth trajectory of personal excellence. Whether you're 25 years old and getting started or 65-year-old and sharpening the saw, we are here to help you out. You can learn more and apply to join the team at endurancenation.us/join. That's www.endurancenation.us/join. I look forward to seeing your application.
Hey there, Coach Patrick, Endurance Nation, back with another micro episode where we answer your key questions to make sure that you're ready for your race day, or you can accomplish all the training that you need to accomplish to be ready for the big day itself, right? So today's question is about swimming. I've got the Ironman Lake Placid background up here behind me. And the question is about wetsuits and choosing the right wetsuit. It's really hard to find the right wetsuit. Sometimes I feel really constricted in my chest. Other times the wetsuit just doesn't seem to fit right. I get a little bit of chafing. I'm not sure what to do. How do I handle this? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about wetsuit choices and selection. All right. So first, let's start off by saying, what's the point of a wetsuit, right? The point of the wetsuit has two functionalities. One is to make sure that you stay at the right temperature on race day, right? Because some of the races, depending on the time of year and the conditions you're swimming in, less than ideal, right? In terms of temperature-wise, et cetera, right? So it keeps your core body temperature right while you're in the water, all right? The second thing that wetsuits are meant to be doing is to actually help you remain buoyant and move well on top of the water. And I say those two elements because you have to make choices for wetsuits that not only sustain your warmth and things that you need in that regard, but then also on the other side allow you to maintain your form and swim well, right? So if your swimsuit is not achieving either, or your wetsuit is not achieving either of those metrics, then we're sort of in some trouble. So you can have a great wetsuit that keeps you super warm, but it doesn't allow you to move at all, and you feel really restricted, and that's tough, right? Conversely, you may have a wetsuit that's like super flexible and dynamic, but if it's so thin that it's not really working, or perhaps it's not even durable, then you run into another conundrum, right? So how do we go about this process, right? So first and foremost, I'll just go through the way that people normally look at things, which is saying, hey, where's the best deal? Wetsuits are expensive. You know, they used to be $200. Now some of them are close to $1,000, depending on what you want with the secret panels and all of those different pieces. So number one, you want to take a look at where you get the best deal and start with that brand, based on your team. Like we have deals inside of our station, based on the brand, et cetera, and then figure out what type of wetsuit fits into your price range or what your price band is. And then we start with those options and we say, okay, what's it like for flexibility? What's it like for comfort? What's it like for sizing? Before you buy anything, you want to know what your price range is so you can plan accordingly. Before you buy anything, you want to try on some wetsuits. And you probably have a local store near you could go to. If not, go to your teammates and find others. Or when you're at the next race, there'll be some kind of a vendor where you can go in and check it out. But really, whether or not you're trying to buy one there or not, because maybe there's a great deal, right? What you really want to make sure of is that the wetsuit fits you well. And you want to understand what a well-fitting wetsuit looks like. Okay, so what you're going to be doing is basically, trying on the wetsuit. The key really when you're putting on your wetsuit, you want to get the legs and the bottom half of the wetsuit on really snug. Like it should be really sort of packed up there, nice and tight, because we want it to fit well over your quads. And it should be tapered, like between the calf and the ankle, somewhere in that range. Either way, it doesn't really matter as much. Your feet don't do very much, and they're not going to keep you very warm regardless. But what we're looking for is that hip sizing really matters. People focus a lot on their arms and their armpit, but really it starts with the hips. So really make sure, between the legs, their groin area, everything that's really snug and everything else, right? Then we're going to slip our arms in, et cetera, get it up over, and it should be pretty snug when you put it on. Like just snug enough that it's just, you got to kind of maybe squeeze your back a little bit to sort of get the zipper to work. And you can zip it up or have a friend zip it up for you. And as you're doing that, you're working your arms. So you make sure that the second fit is here underneath your armpits. So you can get that wetsuit up underneath your armpits and it stays there. So basically it should be fitting well enough that it's snug against your torso, but that it's not popping away from your armpits as you move your arms around, right? We don't want to be sort of like a webbed foot, like a Labrador retriever. We want something that's kind of well fitting. It's going to come down just past your wrist here on either end. And you should be able to move. And when you put your hands out in front of you, directly ahead of you, and you move like that right hand forward, you're going to feel a pull in the back of the wetsuit because of the material working across your back and your torso. That's exactly what we want. Like this, the wetsuit actually helps you move more dynamically in the water because it's snug enough. So the question about feeling that inability to breathe and so on. For a lot of people, that's just a natural feeling when they're swimming in a wetsuit. That's sort of a regular piece. You'll know if the wetsuit doesn't fit on dry land. You don't have to get in the water to see whether or not it fits, because you'll get on dry land. And if you're having trouble breathing or just taking deep breaths on land, then you're definitely going to have trouble in the water under duress. Okay, so the challenge for most people actually is that they choose a wetsuit that's a little too loose, and they get in the water, and you want to get in the water, open up the collar, let the water kind of seep in a little bit, and you'll know it's too loose because when you're swimming, you can feel a lag in the suit moving around your torso when you're swimming. So you're swimming and like you kind of rotate on your left-hand side and the suit takes a split second to kind of turn around and kind of catch up to you. That's too loose in the torso area. Most people don't have looseness in the legs. And if you did, it's not terrible. But the real problem is that upper body, making sure that neck is nice and snug so water's not entering there as you're moving through the water. Same with the ends of your arms. You want those to be nice and finely tapered on the wetsuits. That works really well. Okay. Last but not least, if you can try this at a race, then allows you to actually get in the water typically and do a demo and get a real good sense of what works for you and what doesn't. You can have a good conversation with the wetsuit rep about what it is, and also talk with some of your teammates, the ones who are good swimmers, not because they're great swimmers because of a wetsuit or not, but that they have a good feel in the sense of the water and they understand what it's like to have a wetsuit that doesn't get in the way, and they can make a recommendation to you. The brands change quite often, and so prices go up and down as well. So really price is the biggest driver here. But if you can find a well-fitting wetsuit and you take good care of it, keep it turned inside out, dry it out after all the races, hang it up or fold it very, very gently in between seasons, your wetsuit should last for several years as long as you take care of it. And once you find a wetsuit you love, it's even more precious to you than a pair of sneakers because you never want it to go away. You never want it to change. Great wetsuits allow you to perform well. The last piece here on the chafing, because that comes up a lot. For a lot of us, chafing is just inevitable, particularly if you're in salt water, for example, or if your swim stroke changes because you're in tight quarters versus swimming on your own. There's a lot of dynamics that happen on race day that don't allow you to swim in the same way that you may swim in your training, and chafing can happen, which is why you want to have some kind of body glide or some kind of spray. I've got a spray that I use as a lubricant that I put across the back of my neck. And I also put it over my calves just before I put my wetsuit on so that I can easily get my wetsuit off at the end of the swim. But also it protects my neck so I don't have any chafing. There's nothing worse than getting out there. It's not necessarily a function of the wetsuit itself unless it is too loose. But again, too loose doesn't just mean the neck and the chafing. Too loose also means that you'll feel that lag with the water between your body and your suit. And it's kind of moving around you, which is what you want to avoid. All right. Best of luck to you. If you are at a local race and you are trying out that wetsuit, get back to us. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you saw out there, what works for you, what doesn't work. Again, if you can find a wetsuit for a great price, that's a great deal. Some people even take hand-me-downs from their teammates, if that's a thing. For me, if I've got an old wetsuit, I'm getting a new one. That old wetsuit's really something I could just easily give away, or maybe for like $100 or something like that. And I can put that towards my new wetsuit, pay it forward. All right. Best of luck to you with all your swimming endeavors. Remember, when you are swimming in open water, be safe, be smart. I look forward to seeing you next week for another series of questions. Be well.
Endurance Nation.
Hey, podcast fans. I know you love the podcast because here you are, you're listening to it and you're still listening to me talk right now. Did you know you can get content just like this in your inbox once a month? We send out a great newsletter. We call it, guess what? The Unfair Advantage. That's right. It's our information to you, something that separates you from the competition. If they're not here, then they don't know. But if you are here, then now you do. Zero excuses. If you go check us out online at endurancenation.us/newsletter, it's your opportunity to enter your email address, sign up for these updates. They come once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending on my race schedule. And it's your chance to get insider information that's going to help you become a better, smarter athlete. Don't miss out on this chance to get ahead of the competition. It doesn't cost you any money, and it's not a ton of work. It's just your email address. That's endurancenation.us/newsletter.
For more information about Endurance Nation, visit us online at endurancenation.us. The provided music is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.